We weren't going to.
Hello, I'm Casey Aiken, and this is 21 This Week. Coming up next, who benefited from Rockville's vote-by-mail election? Marc Elrich continues his war with the county police. The county council passes mandatory work hours for janitors. And as Biden flounders, Bloomberg prepares his presidential bid. Stay tuned. Our panel of insiders will give you the story behind the story. We're joined by the former Majority Leader of the Maryland House of Delegates, John Hurson, Secretary of the Maryland Republican Party, Mark Uncapher, past President of Montgomery County Young Republicans, Dan McHugh, and political strategist, Susan Heltemes. Stay tuned for these stories and more on the next 21 This Week. The city of Rockville conducted municipal elections this week with a new feature in place, a vote-by-mail ballots. Susan Bridget Donald Newton was reelected as mayor, and two incumbents, Burl Feinberg and Mark Prishala, won reelection. And two new council members were also elected, David Miles and Monique Ashton. But what impact did any of this controversy over the by-mail ballots have on these races?
Well, the biggest impact was that election results were not announced till 1-something in the morning because they had to go through, it takes like people power extraordinaire to go through and verify these ballots. And the turnout that day in person voting in addition to mail was unbelievable. And so they're working on that in the county, and the state is even going to look to it in case we ever get to mail ballots. But the incumbent won. One of her incumbents came in, who ran with her. So two council people from her team, two council people from the other team won. I think the voters of Rockville won, and turnout was higher than normal.
What about the likelihood of voter fraud and all these
It's
ballots?
been proven. The state of Washington does mail voting.
Well, that doesn't mean they're immune to voter fraud, Susan.
Yes, but I think that we have to be realistic in terms of it's inevitable. They do things like compare signatures, and we do absentee voting, and no one complains about that.
I was going to ask Mark about that, because absentee ballots have been around for decades, Mark. So in this type of scenario, and the Rockville election is a non-party election, does one party, I guess, have any advantage over another?
I don't think any party has an advantage. I mean, the turnout about doubled. It went from about 15% to 30%, so 70%.
That's good.
70% didn't participate, which is, for a local election, not surprising. I mean, there is a presumption, I think, generally speaking, that absentee ballots are a little stronger for Republicans, say, compared to early voting in terms of proportional thing. But I don't think that's really a factor here in the Rockville election.
But is this a sea change, John? I mean, are we seeing a sea change in the way people are expected to vote?
Well, I think you're seeing that. I mean, you're right. I think the more access to the ballot, either by mailing in a ballot or other activities, early voting, those are all expanding, and I think that's a good thing.
But you know, it's counterintuitive, but there is a lot of data that shows that early voting and sort of all these different don't necessarily increase turnout. Obviously it did in this mail.
Yeah.
And part of it is because the procrastinators, if you will, need a date where it's absolutely certain for them to go out.
But the beauty of early voting is that you do have a longer time. There are some people who cannot vote on election day for whatever reason, so it's a good thing.
So you're a millennial.
Yeah.
Would you favor electronic voting?
No, I think it could be, manipulated. I don't trust that. I mean, should we resort to American Idol style voting, text in your vote? I don't trust that when it comes to electing our elected officials. I don't.
All right. So let's go on to our next topic. John, there was a controversy this week when County Executive Marc Elrich banned the display of a black and white American flag with a thin blue line through it, which has come to be a symbol of support for police officers. Now, as can be expected in this hyper-politicized world we now live in, there are some that see this as a symbol of racist response to the Black Lives Matter movement. Is it?
So you have to get this whole perspective on what this means. Many people believe the thin blue line American flag is also a white supremacist flag. So that is a belief out there. My attitude about all this is, don't screw up with the flag. Just leave the flag alone. You know, it's an American flag. We shouldn't have little blue lines through it or purple lines or anything else. It's an American flag. Leave it that way. And just nobody mess with it. That's what I believe. So.
Okay, that's a fair estimation, but how do you avoid the fact, and how does people really announce their support for the police? Because the police in Montgomery County and the county executive have been at odds ever since he was sworn in.
I think there are many ways you can support the police in various ways. You know, I can't think of anything off the top of my head at the moment, but changing the American flag to support the police is not a good way to do it.
It would be the same thing if someone put a black line through it.
Yeah,
I really do. That's the first thing that I thought of when I saw it is the American flag should not be.
Has County Executive Elrich told anybody to take down a Black Lives Matter logo or flag anywhere in this county? He has not.
There is not an American flag, though.
That is hypocrisy.
But there isn't an American flag that was changed in any way. They have banners.
County Executive Elrich is slapping our police officers in the face. We just had a police officer killed himself and taken his life in a parking garage in Silver Spring just a couple of weeks ago. This was made by a little boy and given to that precinct in Germantown as a way to lift their spirits because their morale is down. County Executive Elrich's behavior is despicable, telling them to take down that flag.
Let me ask you a question, Dan. I mean, isn't there a distinction between supporting the police officers as what John said, and this, you know, whatever this young man did in his effort to support the police, and also desecrating the American flag?
It's not desecrating. It's out of respect to the men and women that get up every day and serve our county and protect us from the innocent. You know, protect the innocent. Next time County Executive Elrich is in trouble, he should call Black Lives Matter or Antifa.
Well, I want Susan, I want to explain to me why having a blue line through this flag is considered racist and a slap at those who believe that Black Lives Matters.
I cannot talk about that in the sense that I've never talked to anyone about their thoughts about that. I think it's wrong, as John said, and I thought I was the only one who felt this way, that to desecrate the American flag like that, you can put Cops Matter.
That is not
wait a minute,
desecrating the American flag.
Explain to me
Yes, it is.
what's the linkage?
No, it isn't.
I mean,
Because
look, whether
the
you agree
link- oh, wait a minute.
agree or not about the Black Lives Matter movement, whether you agree or support it or not, what's the linkage?
This is coming- hold on.
That linkage came about because when the Black Lives Mattered, it was after a series of a lot of young black men who were shot by police officers under what were questionable issues.
Okay,
Cops have
that's fine.
cops have gone to jail and things, and so that's where it came about. And
Okay.
it's a simple Black Lives Matter.
So what you're saying is that if you support the police, you are against Black
I
Lives
never
Matter.
said that.
But
And-
isn't that what the conclusion you have to draw is? Mark.
I think people ought to be able to characterize what the blue flag means, as opposed to have to deal with somebody else's characterization.
Wrap it up. We got
Black
about 30
Lives
seconds.
Matter, to me, comes from a place of hate and anger. This flag that was made by this little boy and here in the county was from a place of love and respect, not a place of disrespect. And how dare County Executive Elrich tell that little boy that flag was wrong? He was making it for police officers who serve and protect this county to protect us daily.
You know what? Just keep the flag out of this.
We got to
okay?
go on. Thank you. I'm glad you made the point. Mark, the county has been very active, the council this week, and it passed a bill this week that mandates employers provide 30 hours of work for janitorial staffs in buildings of 350,000 square feet. I didn't even know there were buildings of 350,000 square feet in this county. But what do you make of this action?
Well, I think what we're reflecting, there's a particular union that has been pursuing this, and I've had a chance to talk to them. The trade-off that they're pursuing is fewer jobs, but for the jobs that people do have, that they get higher income, longer hours. Now, when we have lower unemployment, it's probably easier to deal with. The long-term consequences will be, though, fewer jobs available and fewer opportunities for those people who want to have a part-time job to also have a part-time job.
So John, is that a good message that's being sent? Isn't it another message being sent that Montgomery County is going to regulate business whether they want it or not?
Oh, look, unions have a job. They represent their workers.
Unions.
No.
You
asked me a question.
Not all those 20 buildings with 350,000 square feet are unionized buildings.
I'm just telling you, unions have a job. They represent the workers.
And they
Their decision was it's a better thing to have fewer jobs with higher pay.
And livable wages.
And livable wages. That is something that they need to do and have to do.
Well, fortunately or unfortunately, we got to go to break, so we aren't going to get to the dynamics of the Crown Act that was passed this week. Good. So we're going to have to defer that for another time. And we're going to go to break. And as Joe Biden's campaign shows signs of trouble, other prominent Democrats are ready to step in. You want to stay tuned to find out who they are. And now, welcome back.
It's a shame.
Well, as you can see, we haven't stopped talking since we went to break, so now we're going to keep it up. But this time we're going to take a new focus, and the focus is on 1 year from now. The 2020 presidential election will have been decided. And while we are a long way from
Less
next
than 1 year.
November, there is considerable jockeying for position still in the Democratic primary field, as some exit the field, and there are others who are poised to jump in. Now, John, last week we saw the exit of Beto O'Rourke from the race, and now new polls show that Senator Elizabeth Warren is gaining strength over current frontrunner Joe Biden. What do you make of that?
Well, you know, Casey, I'd really like to talk about the Republican side.
Well, let's talk
there
about,
are a couple
let's
candidates
talk about
there.
Democrats first.
Okay.
We'll get. I promise.
There are a couple candidates there. One guy's name is Trump, I think, and I think we ought to talk about him.
We will.
But let me talk quickly about Joe Biden. He is one of the top 4 candidates, even now in Iowa. I'm a Biden supporter, so full disclosure. Look, I think the Democratic Party is going to have a big decision they have to make between their very progressive wing, Bernie and Elizabeth, and the rest. And now we're going to have another competitor, possibly. Look, I think Joe, I'll be really blunt about this, I think Joe Biden deserves this. I mean, honestly, I do. And thank you for your laugh. And the point is, there's a big thing that's going to happen in the Democratic Party in the next 3 months. We're going to decide who we are coming up. But the bigger thing is what happens to President Trump.
We'll get to that in a minute, because I want to explore the Biden thing just for a little bit further, because Susan, Frank Luntz today on CNBC said that Biden's campaign is in free fall and that it is in so much trouble.
He's an idiot.
Thank you.
He's a Republican pollster.
Joe
Okay,
Biden.
this is what I
Wait
want
a
to
minute,
say about
but-
the. Can I
but
talk
wait,
about?
No, but Elizabeth Warren scares the hell out of Wall Street, and now Michael Bloomberg is thinking about jumping in.
Well, I want to go to Joe Biden for a minute. And I think that everybody needs to take a deep breath and not look at the state-by-state polls and look at the national polls. And the national polls consistently have Joe Biden way ahead. And he is way ahead in the African-American vote. And as John and I at least are aware that for Democrats to win, you need the African-American vote in this country. I find it interesting that Frank Luntz and Breitbart and all these people are talking about the importance, and now Joe Biden, is having troubles in his campaign.
Susan, they're hiding them. They won't even let him go out and make a public statement.
That's not true.
He's
got health
talking.
problems.
It's not true.
And the other
got health
thing
problems.
is you wish
Yeah,
he
conspiracy
had
theories
trouble.
All right,
everywhere.
but let's talk about Elizabeth Warren.
Okay.
Elizabeth Warren, her numbers are rising. She's
And
gained,
so is
Not
Pete
anymore.
Buttigieg.
she's gaining popularity.
Not anymore.
Not anymore? You don't think?
No.
You don't think she's the darling?
She's going down.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
The most recent polls have shown her going down because of the attacks on
Casey,
Medicare
I
for
think
all.
you touched on one of the key developments this week, which is Michael Bloomberg getting in the race. And having followed and been active in New York politics, I will say Michael Bloomberg could give a master class along with Bill Clinton in the politics of triangulation.
Yep.
He is an absolute master of being able to weave together seemingly different constituencies and pull them together.
But with all due respect, given the news today, I'm not sure he's in yet. I'm not. I really don't.
And
he may not be in.
And Eric
I think
Holder is also a possibility. And, you know, there
So
may
let
be.
me ask
Hillary
you,
Clinton
let me
is
ask you a
talking
question,
about
John.
jumping
What about
back.
Trump?
Let's go to.
Let's talk about Trump.
Okay,
Sure.
we'll get to
Let's
Trump.
talk about
Let's talk about Bloomberg. No, but
the
let's- I wanna
president
talk-
who's about
I
to
wanna-
be impeached.
I want to talk about Bloomberg first,
All right.
because the issue is Bloomberg is not universally loved by
No.
the left wing.
In comparison to Blasio, though,
of the
he's
Demo-
loved.
yes.
Of the
No,
Democratic
no.
Party.
You go to New York. He's not very popular in New York.
But
So-
the question is who is his constituency? I mean, is
I
he
don't know.
trolling in the same constituency that Biden is?
He is.
And is he counting on Biden to fail, and that's
and
why
the
he's
problem
getting in?
is the problem when he gets in, he
If
doesn't
he
know what
gets in.
Iowa looks like. He doesn't know what
But the question
he
is-
doesn't know how to go out and campaign.
But he can enter the race after the New Hampshire, after
No,
wait
no.
a minute, after Iowa, after New Hampshire, and he has
Rudy
and he
Giuliani.
has a
That's what I have to say to
boatload-
you.
He has a boatload of money.
Doesn't matter.
So does John Delaney and Tom Steyer.
I'm just telling you, it doesn't work. Okay? Rudy tried this. He tried to say, "Oh, I'm gonna compete in Florida. I'm not gonna pay attention to Iowa and New
I think-
Hampshire,"
All right,
and
so-
it did
so-
not
Wait a minute.
work.
So I
This
wanna-
is
I wanna
where
pivot
this
now.
is. Wait a minute. Bloomberg has a problem in that. What I just said in the last time I talked is I don't think Bloomberg is going to appeal to the African American
not.
community.
Is
It's-
Elizabeth Warren?
No,
Is Buttigieg?
I don't know.
No.
I don't know.
I mean,
The answer is I don't know the
week,
answer.
Not right now.
It was alleged this week that because Buttigieg is homosexual, he will not appeal to the gay community.
Well, that to the gay
To the
community.
gay community?
yeah.
to the
I mean,
black
community.
Black community.
Yes,
Thank you.
that is a real possibility, but that came out of Breitbart. So, you know, I questioned whether.
Buttigieg got in a lot of trouble over the whole police shooting in South Bend.
But that has gone
All
by.
right, so let's switch. We'll get to you in a second, but I've got two questions to tee up so you can,
But time is going fast,
I
Casey.
know.
Who
is this
Well, keep
guy? He's
talking,
being
Susan.
impeached?
So
I
Dan,
forgot.
Yes, sir.
there's a Republican who's running for president.
Yes.
His name is Donald Trump.
Yes, sir.
And the question is, and I think the question we're all wondering is there a Democrat out there? Because the national polls show, polls show that Trump would lose to all of them.
Well, the polls showed that in 2016, and Trump won. So I put very little stock in what the polls are saying. Bottom line is this.
Good.
Bottom line is this. Best economy ever, lowest unemployment ever, the stock market through the roof. Donald Trump has promised delivering on better trade deals with China, with Mexico. He's delivered on those things. Donald Trump is delivering on his promises. Donald Trump is not a war hawk. Donald Trump killed had the head
So
of
you're
ISIS
saying
killed.
that all these two people next to you
Yeah.
are wrong
Yes.
because they fear that he can't be beaten.
I don't think he's going to
No,
be
I
beat.
So-
think they're desperate to run against Michael Pence. That's their hope is that they'll get impeachment, and of course we realize
Well, let's talk
impeachment is
about
just
impeachment.
part of the
Impeachment is not
process.
me.
Let's talk
Look,
about impeachment,
they're
Mark.
desperate
He's not going to be removed from office.
Right,
We
okay,
all know
okay,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
He is going to get impeached by the House. We all know that. That is going to happen, and that's going to play itself out, and then we're going to be left with the election. That's what's going to happen. And I don't think the House has any other decision to make other than impeach the guy, send it to the Senate. The Senate will keep him there.
Hey, now,
That's
John,
fine.
I got a question for you. Because NBC News sent some people out to the outer lands, to the hinterlands, and they were shocked that most people didn't really care
They don't.
about the impeachment effort.
I agree. They don't care. And
So
the
how is this
reason
gonna-
they don't
how
care.
is this going to be a negative?
The reason they
How is
don't.
this going to be a negative to President Trump?
He will be the third president in the United States history to be impeached. Okay.
And he'll be reviled like the Republicans revile Bill Clinton. He's
Second.
not going to be
Second.
removed from office.
Second.
We know that.
Second.
It also
He'll
helps
third president.
Democrats to identify senators who are going to Republicans who are going to support him and not, acquit. They will acquit him.
And they're going to be in
And
trouble.
Susan,
Collins
so
and May.
in the election that Bill Clinton emerged stronger, not weaker. Mark, go ahead.
I was going to precisely
He
make.
had just won re-election.
But the impeachment took place afterwards.
Yeah, 98.
And
After
I
he
think
ran for
the
re-election.
lesson that many people draw from the Clinton experience is that if impeachment is seen as simply a political exercise of partisanship on one side against the other, then it works against.
You know what? This Ukraine issue, people understand it. Unlike the Mueller
He
report,
broke the law.
Oh,
No, he
guys,
He violated the
What
law.
law did he
You know,
break?
we're
Made a
gonna
phone
fi-
call?
No,
Hold
no,
on.
no, a
John,
statute. He
John,
violated a
John,
statute.
We're going to find out whether or not he violated.
he
You-
did.
We'll be
John,
back next week.
You should
John,
say allegedly.
I recognize your opinion. There are those that may differ with you.
I agree.
And when we come back from this brief moment, we're going to have parting shots. So stay tuned. And welcome back. Before we go to parting shots, I just want to take a moment to say that we have a rare opportunity this weekend, because normally on federal holidays we don't tape a show on the weekend before. This Monday happens to be Veterans Day, and under normal circumstances we would be off. But I want to take the opportunity this weekend in particular to honor our veterans wherever they may be, because they are the ones who keep us safe and free, protect our liberty, and protect the great country that we all live in. So now with parting shots, Susan Heltemes.
I just came back from 2.5 weeks in the Midwest. I was in Minnesota, Illinois, and Wisconsin. I also talked to family members from Iowa and South Dakota. And in that trip, I learned something fascinating. People understand the Ukraine issue. They also understand that you don't eke out on your allies and you throw the Kurds to get murdered. It is a wonderful feeling, and white, male, educated men are turning away from the Republican Party. Family members who loved and said, so much for the tweeting, so much for the nastiness, the bigotry. That is what Democrats have going for them. Wisconsin is not going to go for Donald Trump.
Thank you, Susan. Dan McHugh, your parting
Casey,
shot.
my parting shot today is at Congressman John Delaney. John Delaney, you're out there in Iowa spending all this money, polling at 0.0%. Come on back to Maryland, Mr. Delaney. File to run for governor in the Democratic primary in 2022. Well, come on back to your state, Mr. Delaney. We miss you.
Thank you, Dan. Not so sure if you're sincere about that, but thank you anyway.
How's that going to work?
Mark Uncapher, your parting shot.
This week is the 10th anniversary of the Maryland Reporter, which is an online source of news and information. We've obviously lost a lot of the resources that we had, such as the Gazette recently over the past several years. So the Reporter is a great resource to pull together as an aggregator of news from around the state.
Thank you, Mark. John Hurson, your parting shot.
My parting shot is to congratulate Casey on running a great show all the time, very fair. I came in here very angry about talking about Trump and not having it in the script, but Casey is always a diplomat and manages to handle this very well.
Well, you've really turned my head there, John.
I forgot to say, go Gophers. 8-0 this weekend. They're playing Penn State. I've never been so happy about Gopher football in my life. So there we are. Go Gophers!
Well, thank you, John, for that high praise. The thing that we try to accomplish each and every week is a great discussion for the viewers of Montgomery County to enjoy the politics that are out there. And this is the most contentious time we have ever seen in my 67 years. I can't imagine that it ever was this bad. But these are all important decisions in times that we live in. And so you all contribute to the success of this show. And I want to thank you for being here tonight, to giving your Friday evening to tape this show. I want to thank the viewers in particular for tuning in each and every week to Montgomery County's hardest hitting political talk show. For 21 this week, I'm Casey Aiken.